Have you checked out the Somebody You Love Patreon yet?
For just $3 a month, you can get every episode without ads and you get them a day early.
For $6 a month, you get all of our bloopers and behind-the-scenes action.
For $10 a month, you get monthly bonus episodes.
And for $20 a month, you also get the bonus episodes as videos.
You can cancel anytime, and when you sign up, you get access to everything that we've posted so far.
We also have annual subscriptions where you save 10% and get 1 month free.
Patreon.com/somebodyyoupod, as in podcast.
You do have to type in the URL because Patreon hides 18 plus creators from the search, so you most likely won't be able to find us by searching. That's patreon.com/somebodyyoupod. Welcome to Somebody You Love, or The Sale of Two Titties. I'm Jenna Love.
And I'm Holly Hart.
And we're experts in disappointing our parents, breaching community guidelines, and banging the people who vote against our rights. We'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we are recording this show. Right now, we're both lucky to be sat on the beautiful, albeit wet, land of the Ngunnawal people, who held a skillful custodianship of and close cooperation with the land for at least 20,000 years before European settlement.
Just a reminder that Jenna and I can only speak from our own experience and that we are not representative of the sex industry as a whole, which is massive and very diverse. Please note that we are responding to a listener question this week, and there are almost immediate references to childhood abuse and suicide, so please switch off the episode now if that may be difficult for you to hear.
So we're switching things up a little bit this week, and we are starting with our question of the week because it was kind of the catalyst for a larger topic that we thought we would turn into a whole episode. So the question is, again, it talks about some hectic shit, so turn off if you're not keen on that right now. I have been single for 15 years as I am overweight and I'm very shy, and due to childhood sexual trauma find it very difficult to make the first move with a lady. I have so much respect for women and have never cheated on a partner. I have always questioned not why a sex worker will have appointments with married men, but why they are seeking it. I'm not being naive, but I have seen female and male married friends commit suicide due to cheating, and I have no respect for any male or female that cheats, unless they have split up or are in an open relationship. Just wondering what your thoughts are on this. So let's unpack some of that. First up, I'm going to say you've not been single because you're overweight.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm just going to say that.
Yeah.
That if that were the case, then I wouldn't have 40,000 partners. Yeah. So that's not, let's just take that right off the table.
Yeah. But I think it's like, as I am overweight and I'm very shy. So I suppose the inference is you have very low body confidence. Sorry. You have very, low body confidence. We get that. Sure. But also, just remember that, that's not why you're single. That might affect your ability to be confident. That's a different issue.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gosh, I want to raise a lot of issues with the question as a whole, but I want to do it in a systematic way. We have a little bit of a structure here for I suppose how we're going to look at this question. So starting with, I don't want to upset the asker of this question, and I feel like there is a lot of discussion that we're going to have around this, which might be upsetting to the person, but we're not attacking you, we're not criticizing you for asking, and if you don't ask these questions and look for the discussions, then you never know, and so that's what we're here for. We're open to the discussion and we're here to talk about it, but we fundamentally disagree with a lot of what's being discussed here, but then we also have, a lot of opinions we want to share on it, and we appreciate you bringing this to us, and if you're listening, please don't see any of our disagreement with you as a personal attack or a criticism of your views. It's just, we're just responding. So, my first thing is I feel like there's a massive amount of, well, firstly, I'm really sorry that you've had friends that you've lost to suicide. It's a really horrible thing, and I think we all know someone who's been affected by mental health issues and by suicide in one way or another. There's been impact, people we know in our lives, and that's awful. But anyway, that's, I had to get that sort of said. The second thing is it just feels like a really naive question to me, or a naive perspective. And the reason I feel it's really naive is to sort of say, and you say you're not being naive, but I feel like you are. Because you say you have no respect for any male or female that cheats. And I get that. I get, like, in life we say, well, I don't like people that do this, or I don't agree with this ethically. And you can stand by those views. But I also think there's a lot of grey areas. And I think there's a lot of black and white thinking that I can see in that question, and a lot of an idea that there is monogamy and faithfulness, and then there is cheating. And I think you're missing out on a whole lot of circumstances in which I'm not saying cheating is okay, but it might not be that simple. I was someone who I always thought I would never cheat on anyone. I would never betray my partner. And that's why I think it's naive, because I think until you've been in that situation, you do. And I think it's the same with many quote unquote unethical things. They're all unethical in your mind until you're in a position where you feel like it's not.
Yeah.
That's how
100%.
ethics works.
Yep.
And I think it's very easy to see it as being concrete until you're in the position where it's not concrete. So I'm not criticizing you for feeling that, that strong way about it, and maybe you're right, maybe you will never see it any other way, but I think there are a lot of circumstances in life where it's not so simple. It's not cheating and not cheating. There are little bits of affirmation you get from someone. I've heard people say that, if their partner had a work wife at work, if they go to the office and they have someone that they get on really well with and they laugh with, and it's not sexual and it's not flirtatious, but it's a really close bond, that's cheating. So there are a whole lot of elements to what is cheating. And then there are a lot of circumstances of unhappy relationships where I suppose somebody's technically cheating, but they can't leave, or there are, relationships that are falling apart and people want to explore something, they want to feel some passion again, but they don't know how to bring it up. And again, I'm not condoning any one thing or another, but I guess I'm saying, and I really just want to make it clear that there's so much grey area, and it's very easy to say, I don't like that sort of person. If you don't know what they've been through and you haven't walked in their shoes, I don't really know if you can make those judgments. And even the most black and white situations where you think it's really clear, there's often so much nuance. So yeah, I definitely am not trying to hook-explain to you cheating. But I think, you're an adult and you can make your decisions on your ethics and your values. But I also think it's really important today that we discuss that the cheating is not as simple as a lot of people think it is.
And I would also suggest that along with our whole somebody you love thing, like I think this idea of I have no respect for any female or male that cheats, I would argue you probably have a lot of respect for a whole bunch of men and women and non-binary individuals who have cheated.
Yeah.
Because I guarantee you, they're fucking everywhere.
Yeah.
Like that's my, So a lot of the time you just don't know.
Yeah, and cheating isn't always, I have a secret mistress that I take and I bang in a seedy motel up the road and I laugh about it and I go back to my wife and pretend nothing happened. There are so many instances of fleeting moments of romance and locking eyes with someone and building over years of, there is so many degrees of it that, even if you're not, you say, you don't respect people who cheating is not always just they've fucked each other. There is so many elements of betrayal in a relationship, and that you probably respect a whole lot of people that you don't even realize are betraying their partners right in front of you.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, absolutely. For me, my takeaway, as soon as I read this question, and I don't want to say this in a disrespectful way, but I went, okay, this person's never been in a serious long-term relationship. That was genuinely my first reaction, because it really sounds to me like this person has really idealized and put on a pedestal the idea of a relationship.
Sure.
And in particular women and the idea of a relationship with a woman. Mm-hmm. And it almost has these beginnings of incel-y vibes to me.
Yes, I feel that.
Where it's very, I would never do that. And these people are so lucky to have a woman, a female, I don't want to be rude, but referring to men and women as male and female does bring with it some incel-y kind of vibes, and it's not, for a lot of us it feels a bit icky. But I think that it just sort of feels like this, maybe it sounds to me like there's a jealousy of these people who have relationships, and you feel like, well, if I was in that situation, I would never do that. And as Holly said, if you've not been in that situation, it's pretty hard. It's pretty hard to judge. I also just wanted to comment that they've written, I have no respect for any male or female that cheats unless they have split up or are in an open relationship. And I just want to say, that's not cheating. If you've split up, then there's nothing to cheat on. And if you're in an open relationship, then cheating can occur in open relationships.
Sure.
But what's being described here is sort of not that. So I think we've destroyed the question enough. So first up, Holly, what do you think? Is seeing a sex worker when you are in a, monogamous relationship and you are visiting a sex worker and your monogamous partner does not know that that's what you are doing, is that cheating?
So many conditions. I think absolutely it's cheating. I think there's been times in my life where I would have liked to convince myself that it wasn't, to make myself feel a little bit ethically absolved of any conflict in my own mind, any cognitive dissonance that I felt about it. But yeah, it's cheating. I think when you do anything that your partner doesn't know about and doesn't approve of and you're deceiving them in any way, I feel like that's cheating and that's betrayal. I used to use the idea in my head that, well, when money's involved, that makes it different. Or when it's, it's not it's a magical wand, a $50 note somehow changes the dynamics of relationship. Yeah, I think when you lie to your partner, that's betrayal and that's cheating. And for the people listening who are starting to feel a little bit guilty, I'm not admonishing you and I'm not judging you. I'm just saying, by definition, I think that is cheating. What do you reckon?
100% agree. I'm not making a judgment on cheating, but I am saying that I think that is absolutely cheating. And I think it's interesting because I have heard other people, I've heard clients and I've heard sex workers, not very many. I think they're probably in the minority, could be wrong, but I've heard people who say that they don't think it is cheating when it's with a sex worker. And my response to that is, well, maybe see what their partner thinks about that. Because I think if you put yourself in the partner's position, I reckon they would consider it cheating. Mm-hmm. I'm the same. Any betrayal of whatever the agreement is, and that's where I say that you can absolutely cheat on an open relationship. You can cheat in a polyamorous relationship, whatever the situation. It's all about whatever the agreement of anybody that's involved is, and when you break that agreement, that's when there's cheating.
So, do you feel any guilt or responsibility about the fact that your clients cheat?
I don't. I really don't. I don't think it's got anything to do with me. And I know that there are people who do. I know there are sex workers out there who feel quite conflicted about it. But I don't know. It's no different to me. If I see somebody who's single or somebody who's cheating or somebody who has a partner and isn't cheating, whatever it is, it's got nothing to do with me. That's a personal life thing. And they're a client. That's just... And I would love to sit here and say that I do feel conflicted by it. I'd love to be like, oh yes, I struggle with it because the sanctity of relationship, whatever the fuck. But I just genuinely don't. It just doesn't bother me. And I don't know if that makes me a bad person or whatever, but I just don't. Yeah. What about you? Do you?
Yeah, no, not at all. I don't think I've ever felt guilt. I felt like I have to justify the job that I do or not to justify the job I do, but justify the fact that I may be doing an unethical thing. I feel like you always want to feel like you're not a bad person or that you're doing something worthy. And so I felt like in my mind I have to combat that a little bit. That was only for a limited time, I think, that I ever felt that way. And then I think it's just not my responsibility for what other people do. I am responsible for myself and my actions, and I do my best to be a decent human, and I just hope that I am. But in terms of clients and the decisions they make as adults in their relationships, that's not up to me. I don't have a screening process that says, tell me if you're married, how long you've been married, what the dynamic is like, and then I'll decide if I feel like it's okay for me to see you. It's not my place. My screening and the questions I ask clients is for my safety and to ensure a decent booking. It's not up to me to make ethical decisions on what they're doing. And I think it's the same of a lot of professions, that you set a professional boundary about what information you acquire, and obviously there are legal responsibilities in other professions, but generally you're not going to ask really personal things that make ethical decisions on your customer's life in a lot of occupations. So I think it's the same thing. I think, it's not my business, and it's not so black and white. It's something that some clients wish to discuss with me, and we have a chat about the intimacies of their relationship and the reason that they do things or their feelings, and that's great. I love to be there and to chat with people about what they're going through. But then there are also clients who I know are married and they don't want to tell me and they don't want to talk about it. And that's also okay. That's their business. It's what they're working through. And that's not got anything to do with me. I'm here to make a living. I'm doing my job. I'm not their babysitter, basically. I'm not their keeper. I'm not their parent. I don't have to tell them or judge them ethically. That's not.
So I've got a question for you. An argument I've heard made a couple of times by swerfy types is, okay, sex workers, you guys say you're all about consent. How can you justify having sex with somebody who is cheating on a partner who is not consenting to that?
well, I'm not having sex with the partner. Like
Yeah.
it's consent is about the two people involved in the act, the physical act itself. If it was about consent and everyone has to consent to every action every other adult is doing, I wouldn't be a sex worker because my mother fucking hates me doing it. So if other people's consent factored into what two people do in a sexual way, then that would be a very complicated world. Yeah, I think it's sad. I think it's, and we'll discuss that, I'm sure, a little bit further at some points. I think it's sad that people feel the need to cheat, or that people are in relationships that they're unhappy, or that they need to get sexual fulfillment elsewhere, or that they feel they've been betrayed themselves and so they need to feel some passion and validation from other people. I think it's really shit that relationships are so complicated and that communication can be so hard. And that sucks. But yeah, it's not up to me to decide the inner feelings of every other partner in a relationship before I go ahead with the booking. And I'm quite comfortable with that.
Yeah, I think I really don't like that argument or that question that gets posed.
Silly.
Well, I think it really undermines, like, yeah, we are passionate about consent, and I think it really undermines what everybody who is really trying to broaden consent education in our society is trying to do, because that's it. Once you start bringing other people into it, I mean, I get what they're saying. If it came down to other people who have relationships with that person, no one would ever have sex because everyone's parents would be uncomfortable with the idea.
Right?
Exactly. I just think, and I think it does. It waters down what the information we're trying to spread about consent by bringing other people into it who aren't I think it's gross. I'm not into it. So, next question is, how do we feel about our clients who we know are cheating on their partners? Like, do we judge them? Do we have disdain for them, etc.?
No, not really. I think as a whole, I just feel sympathy. I'm not stupid. I know that I only hear one side to a story, and I know there's a whole other side, and that relationships are complex. So it's not like people tell me their story and I sort of go, oh no, you poor thing, your wife's so horrible to you. I'm not an idiot. But I also sympathise that things are not as simple as the world would like them to be, and generally feel sympathy for them and for the partner. I think it sucks. I think it's really hard when you're in a relationship when things are struggling, or whatever it is that makes this person need to go and see a sex worker. But no, there's no judgment. It's not my business. I just generally feel like if you are an adult, you make your own decisions. I have in the past judged some people who are cheating because of the way they have spoken about their wives.
Yep.
I think there are people who have, and I think there's some idea in some people's minds when they see us that they feel like they have to sort of say, oh, my wife, and really put her down. A lot of people don't. A lot of, men and people are really tactful. But I think some people feel like to justify their actions, they need to make their partner sound really awful or say some really horrible things. And sometimes the little red flags are going off in my head, and I'm going, this person you're sort of a dick.
Yeah.
And like, no wonder your wife isn't interested in you or no wonder. And that's not a common thought. That's a very rare occasion, but there have been occasions where somebody is saying something where I think, man, you sound like a dick. No wonder she's sick of you. So I'm never judging my clients for cheating, but sometimes I judge the cheaters for the way that they say gross things. What's your vibe?
Yeah, I can think of 2 clients that I have judged.
Oh, wow.
And it was exactly the same. One of them I saw quite a few times, and he had a wonderfully passionate, loving relationship with his wife. They were intimate all the time, and he was just seeing so many sex workers, and she didn't know. He was just so, I don't know, I really didn't like his attitude towards it, and there was nothing, like his relationship was wonderful, and I thought, well, then have a talk to it. Like I didn't love that. And then the other one was somebody who was really negative about their partner. And to be clear, God, we've always got to put disclaimers on things. I've had plenty of clients who have talked about difficulties in their relationships or said, oh, what do you think about this situation or blah, and that's totally fine. Yeah. But this person was being, I thought, really cruel just about gross. Their partner.
Yes.
Yeah, and it was gross. Yeah, I was not into it. So there are 2 that I have judged. And other than that, no, I really don't. I feel a lot of empathy for them. Same as you, Holly, like I'm aware that I only am hearing one person's side of the story, but I also feel that is my job, and everyone needs somebody who hears their side of the story. And I think that that's like valid, and it's not, like, it doesn't matter. I don't need to hear the other side of the story because I'm not employed by the other person.
Yeah, you're not an adjudicator for this
No,
relationship.
No, I'm not. Exactly. And so I do feel a lot of empathy, and I think that we'll go on to talk about this, but I think that a lot of people, I've had plenty of men cry with me because they think that they are the most evil person in the world because they are cheating. And I know that a lot of people listening will be like, well, fuck them, they should feel that way. And cool, whatever, you can think that. But when you're with someone and they're beating themselves up, it's hard to feel that way, I think. I mean, I don't know. I feel like this episode, I'm going to come out and people are going to be like, you're like a cheater apologist. Yeah. And I kind of am, because I kind of think the world is a bit shit and people have been set up to fail. And I think we could do with having a bit more empathy for people, quote unquote, failing at monogamy, I guess.
So why do you think people cheat? Why do people particularly cheat with sex workers?
Okay, so
2 questions.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so it's difficult for me to speak on this because I'm polyamorous and I don't love the idea of monogamy. And I don't want to come across as bashing monogamy, because I do think that it absolutely has a place. But my issue with monogamy is that, like, monogamy, okay, so the whole point, right, correct me if I'm wrong, the whole point is that you reserve all intimacy, whether it be emotional, sexual, physical.
Mineral.
Mineral?
Animal, mineral. Is that a Cher song?
Oh, I don't know it. Okay. That you reserve all of that for one person. And that's cool. That works. And they reserve it all for you. Everyone's happy. The question that I don't think monogamy has an answer for is what happens when one of those people involved, for whatever reason, is not able to provide any or all of those things to the other person. And from what I can tell, from what society seems to tell me, the answer to that question is you just fucking suck it up and deal with it. And I don't think that's a good enough answer, because I think there's this idea that you just have to deal with it. You have to be selfless. You just have to, because this is your partner and you decided to be with them for the rest of your life. And I don't I don't know, I might come across as really selfish, but I just don't think I don't think that's okay. I don't think it's okay for us just to say to people, okay, well, you never get to be touched by someone again. You never get to, what? I don't know why that's seen as desirable and why it's seen as a really virtuous thing for somebody to just go, okay, well, then that's it. And I don't understand how monogamy has this thing of, you can only have sex with me, but then if the sex isn't happening, what's the answer there?
There is no sex. Yeah.
You can only have sex with me, but I'm not going to have sex with you, so what's the fucking solution there? And to be clear, when I talk about sex, I'm not just talking about a penis in a vagina or a penis in a butthole or whatever the fuck. Like, I'm talking about, kissing and cuddling and this, and I'm sure you've had the same experience, that I can't tell you how many clients tell me the exact same story, and I know I'm only hearing one side of the story. But it is they always go, it's not just about the sex. It's not that. I haven't held someone's hand in years. I haven't kissed. When we sit on the couch, we sit on separate couches. We don't touch, and we're best friends. Like, we are best of friends, and I adore her, and she's the most amazing mother, and I love her, but they're not feeling loved. They're not feeling desired. And, you can shrug all you want at that, and you can say, well, too bad, they don't deserve that. But I don't understand why. You've only got one life. Like, why not be, not selfish, but I just think that it's completely writing that off and saying, oh, well, it is really, I don't know, harsh.
I think communication is obviously a really big part of that. And I think one of the things that I see a lot is, and again, acknowledging that we only hear one side of the story and we hear a lot of the men's side of the story.
Yes.
And again, this is a very heteronormative language I'm using here, because it's mostly men that I hear this sort of stuff from. So, mostly my male clients. So, often for one reason or another, there is no intimacy. So, like you said, not necessarily sex, but there's intimacy lacking for so many reasons. And it's really hard because I think men sometimes try to talk about it, or they want to bring it up and they do their best, but it can come across as nagging for sex, and that's really uncomfortable. There's nothing worse than being told to do something or begged to do something you don't want to do. There's nothing that's more of a turn off than having, like, maybe I'm speaking from my own experience, but then having a partner going, oh, please, let's have sex. And
oh God, that would be such a turn off.
It's really someone begging you to have sex. It's really, and it doesn't have to be
consent into question. It gets a bit murky,
and you do it just because you want to shut them up, and it's not it's not usually in that tone of voice and with those specific words, but that's the tone that you sort of feel sometimes when you don't feel like it for whatever reason, or you're not able to come to the party in that way, and somebody's like, can we though? It feels like that. It feels like, okay, you're smothering me. And so it's really hard, because then the man, feels chastised for bringing it up, and then she feels pestered about it, and so then he retreats and she retreats, and it only compounds the issue. And there are obviously ways to work around this, and I think going and seeing therapists makes a big difference, and particularly even maybe seeing relationship counsellors and things like that, and sex therapists, and I think there's a lot of avenue to work on it. But generally, I think a lot of people just get really, it's too much, and they give up, and they just want to keep the peace, and so they look elsewhere. And I just think it's really sad that even in what should be workable monogamous relationships, the communication is such a difficult thing, and particularly around sex. We've been raised, a lot of generations have been raised to find sex a really awkward thing to talk about, or that there are a lot of patriarchal sort of views in relationships where, even if the woman doesn't really feel like it, she's got to do it, and then when she stops doing it, she starts to feel a pressure. Like, there's that whole thing of men want sex more than women, and so it becomes more of like a chore, and that's not how we should be teaching society that sex works. Sex should be something we both do together, that we get excited about and that we enjoy. Again, sex not having to be P and V or scissoring, or it doesn't have to be, it can be anything, just being slow, intimate kissing, and another thing, particularly as a woman, is when you're already feeling that way and all your partner wants is to be cuddled and kissed and held, but your mind is going, he's expecting something from it. And I think a lot of guys do that without realising. They started kissing and a bit of cuddling, and they get horny, and so they think that it must follow on to something, and that it can't just be a kiss and a cuddle for a kiss and a cuddle's sake. And so then a woman starts to get really stressed out about it, and they start to perceive that every time he comes and puts his arms around her, he's vying for sex, and that's all it is. And so then they start to reject even the smallest amounts of kiss
I've never thought of that. You're spot on.
Well, I've been there.
Absolutely.
I've been there. And you feel like, oh, fuck, here we go. And so you're like, just don't touch me.
Yeah.
And then that's even more starving for a guy and for her, because you want to feel loved and kissed and touched. So these things descend really quickly. They spiral, and it's a really common thing that happens, but it's so hard to fix because the communication is really threatening for both people, because it feels horrible to feel rejected by your partner. If your partner doesn't want to touch you, it's crushing for a lot of these guys. And for the woman, if you feel like your partner is pestering you for sex and that you're withholding it, and you're like a cruel woman, and you feel like you're not fulfilling a duty as a wife and all those sorts of things, it knocks people feel this though. It knocks you both down, and you start to feel really shit. So I mean, that's why people cheat, for a multitude of reasons, but because communication goes awry, and the person that's your best friend and that you want to keep the peace with, you don't want to hurt them, and the communication can be more frightening than just cruising along with the disaster that it is.
I can't tell you how many men I have said, have you spoken to your wife about this? Have you said, God, I'd love it if we could hold hands, or, and they go, oh, no, I can't talk about that. Yeah. And I go, well, there's your problem, buddy. And I'm not in their relationship. I can't fix it for them, but I just go, maybe if you had a discussion, it might help. But particularly with older couples, I think they've never spoken about it, and they can't suddenly speak about it. And then they think it'll be suspicious if they do start speaking about it. She'll go, oh, where have you been getting these ideas from, or whatever? And it's just this whole
very
thing.
True. Yeah. And this is a societal thing, like you said, that we've been set up to fail, particularly in monogamy, but more broadly in sexuality, that people are taught that talking about sex is shameful, and that having these open discussions is something that really naughty or kinky people do. Rather than being able to be best friends and having open discussions about your needs in a relationship and sexual needs or physical needs, without necessarily having to have any specific path or sexual kink, or it's just two people communicating. I think that is, we're really lacking that in sex, well, not sex education, but in sex culture and the way that we all treat sex.
So something I used to struggle with was, I would say, just leave. Why? If it's not working, just leave. And that was always for me, again, I wouldn't want to judge people, but I would just think, why don't you just not be in this relationship? If it's not working, what are you doing? And I think that's something, as I've grown, as I've had a lot of these conversations with people, and I think that I'm assuming a lot of sex workers have these conversations, but maybe particularly because I'm married and I speak so openly about my relationships, I attract a lot of clients who specifically come to me and want to talk about that sort of stuff. The more I've gotten to know people who are feeling like they're in this situation, the more I've realized how complicated it is and how saying just leave is actually, I used to think that, and now I think that was actually really naive of me. Because once there's kids involved, once there's shared finances involved, once there's everything, like it does become difficult. And I think the amount of men, again, just talking about men, because I think I've never had a solo woman come to me who's even been bi or pan. I've only ever had gay female clients. And I've never had one that was in a relationship. And that's not to say that women don't cheat. And it's not to say that women don't cheat with sex workers. But I've not had that experience. But there are so many men who say, I'm just waiting until the kids are whatever age. They've got a set age that they think, okay, they'll probably be able to handle their lives being shattered at that point or whatever. And you may disagree with that. And you may say it's better, whatever. You may think whatever. But I can tell you that this perception from the outside of going, oh, he or she, they're just throwing their family away and they're off cheating with no regard for it. As I said, I've met those two people who I felt that way about. Yeah. And every other person has really thought about it, has massively beaten themselves up about it, and has a plan or has a timeline. The other one I hear a lot is she wouldn't survive financially if I left.
Oh, wow, I haven't heard that, yeah.
And I think that's rough. But there's a lot of, and again, I know that there are people listening to this being like, Jenna, you're just hearing his side of the story. And I'm not siding, I'm not taking any sides. But the message I'd like to get out there is that these people are not maybe being as callous as it may look from the outside.
Yeah.
Like they are genuinely trying to do the best thing that they can do. And we can all disagree with that as much as we want. But the reality is that they're trying not to hurt people.
I think a lot of people, when you say, we'll just end it, just leave. I think a lot of people, they don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater sort of thing. The relationship that they have is beautiful. They love this person. They've committed to them for their life for a reason. This is somebody that lights up their world in a million ways and that they want to spend the rest of their life with. There's just one component that's missing, and it's an important enough component that they feel that they need to get that satisfaction elsewhere or get that need filled elsewhere, but they still love this partner. There might be communication issues and there might be trust issues and things like that, but fundamentally this is the person that they've committed to and that they adore. So to say, well, just split up with them, it's not that easy. They still want this person. It's not like they've decided they don't want them anymore. It's often they really love someone, and it's just not that simple.
There's so much shame around it. And it's not that I think that there shouldn't be shame around cheating, because obviously I don't think it's the right thing to betray somebody and to hurt somebody that way. But I think for me the issue is that there's shame around a monogamous relationship, quote unquote, failing. Like that's where I've got a problem, because I think that there's this sense of I shouldn't be wanting anyone else. And like, sorry to break it to you, babe, but we're animals. I mean, and again, that, this is not supposed to be an argument for or against monogamy. No, well, I've got my own opinions on that, but it's really absurd to me that there's this idea that we, after 30 years with one person who you met when you were a fucking teenager half the time, that you're supposed to still never want to look at anyone else. Like, that's crazy. That doesn't make any sense. But even if it does, what if that person then has a physical issue or a mental health issue or whatever, and they no longer, want to be intimate with you? Are you still supposed to only want to be with them? Because I just think that's shit. Anyway, the reason I've heard a lot And I'm sure we can talk about this. I agree and disagree with it. But one of the big reasons why, again, men in our case cheat with sex workers is because they've made the choice to see a sex worker rather than having a hookup with somebody at work or meeting somebody on a dating app and getting strings attached and getting families ruined. I hear that all the time. Do you hear the same?
Yeah, I do hear that. And I really strongly agree with it, because when I was being cheated on in the most humiliating of the cheatings that I've had in my life and in the most painful one, the pain wasn't that he was with somebody else. The pain was that he was gallivanting around town with somebody, making a mockery of me, and that people were looking at me like a fool. And that was really painful, that somebody who was meant to be my best friend and my teammate in life, and we were us against the world together, that he was sort of making a dick of me, and that obviously didn't respect me. That's what I was reading, was that you didn't respect me enough to at least not show off that you were fucking everyone else. Like that just
hurtful.
feels, it's really hurtful. The fundamental idea of you touching your genitals to somebody else's, I don't really care. I mean, I'm not saying run around and do it, but that's not what's crushing me. The crushing thing was that when I found out, it was people would come to me and go, "Oh no, you're the girlfriend." I'd know they had stories, and it was just humiliating. So sorry, I had to tell my life story there. But so I get that, is that if you are going to cheat, and if you do it with somebody where the parameters are really clearly defined and there is no tangled up emotions and you can still have emotion, you can still be excited and affectionate and whatever, but there's no crossing of boundaries, and things are really delineated. Is that the right word? I think, yeah. Things are clearly delineated into, this is our time together, this is where it ends, and then I'm back to my own life.
And there's not another family involved too.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that's the other thing with dating someone from work or whatever.
Exactly.
Then you've got two families,
And so I feel like, if you're going to pursue physical or emotional validation and intimacy from somebody else, if you're doing it in a way that's really clear and, not humiliating, or at least very private, then, and I guess safer in a way, in that it doesn't, you're not risking as much heartache. And look, there's always a chance that people fall in love and things, but it just feels less fraught. And so I agree with it. I get why people would say that that's why they do it.
Yeah, I agree with the logic. I think the only thing that we have to acknowledge is that there's then a financial betrayal.
I don't feel like that's as, to me, and that's just my perspective. So I'm sure a lot of people would find that really painful. For me, I sort of feel like my partner would do. I'm not the sort of person who would have a shared bank account.
Yeah, same.
So to me, that wouldn't be a very real. I'd go, well, that's your fucking money. I don't really care. Like, you waste it on whatever you want, you goose. But I suppose there are a lot of people out there where that might be.
I can just
really
imagine. If you guys are trying to pay off your mortgage together, you're trying to buy nice things for the kids, and then you find out that thousands of dollars every month. I think that's a component that's worth considering.
You're very right, actually. When you put it like that, I would probably be like, Jesus, like, thanks.
Yeah.
Well, you couldn't bring me home a gift and just dropping all this cash on someone.
Yeah, it would. I think that would
spend the money on therapy so we can work our shit
out.
Or are we going to alienate our clients?
Potentially. Well, it's worth trying at least. It is. It's worth. I have lost a few clients because I've told them to work on their relationships.
Yeah.
And they've written back to me and been like, "You were amazing, and like you've helped me see that I really need to work on things." And I'm like, "That's brilliant. Guess you're not going to give me an extra tip for that. I'll never see you again." Excellent.
I think that's really nice, and I say to all of my clients, I think that did I say before? I think I was going to say and forgot, but I think there's a perspective that we're going to sit there and go, "Oh yeah, your wife's such a bitch," and because our interest is in making as much money for ourselves or whatever. But I think most workers that I know of we just want our clients to be happy. We're human beings who want to see people get on and have a nice life, and sure, it's nice if you take care of us financially, but also, we want people to be happy, and I want my clients to say that, wow, things have been so much better with my wife, or we had this chat and I feel a little bit, or just when they never see me again, that's also really nice. So don't not come back, married clients who are listening. Please, I really enjoy your support, and I sure enjoy you. But I want to just make it really clear that it is, I don't know, it's really nice when people do go and work on their shit, but it's also not that easy. It's not as easy as go work on it, it's fixed. Otherwise, if we could solve all our mental health issues and interpersonal issues with just go fix it,
Well, I know I've also ruined a few clients' relationships. Not intentionally at all, but I've had 3 clients I can think of who were really inspired by my approach to relationships and communication and honesty, and who went and told their partners, you know, that they had been seeing sex workers and blah, blah, blah. And fuck me, do I admire them for that. And, you know, I am like, that is beautiful that you got that from me. But then they were on the street and living in hotel rooms, and things were really bad. One of them was living in a motel for a long time. God. And, you know, was like, I won't be seeing you again, but communicated some of this to me and said, I need to fix this. And, you know, cool, good on you. I've not heard from him in years. But, unfortunately, people tend to get inspired by me and then go and, you know, nuclear bomb their families. Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe don't take my approach to life. It works for me. Maybe it doesn't for everyone.
I have been single for a very, very, very long time. So also, don't, you know, my relationship insight is probably not concrete. I've got no training. So,
but then you've had more relationships than I have.
Yeah, but very messy. I've learned a lot through the power of pain.
Yeah. Well, I've had really healthy relationships, which means I maybe am not an expert on the subject because I can't talk that much about it, you know? Anyway, what's our too long didn't listen? It's that...
Why do people cheat? A million reasons. Yeah. And a lot of them are actually really valid. Again, we're not saying it's okay, but there's so much complexity. And one thing we didn't bring up, and you just really did quickly touch on it, I just want to reiterate this, is that there are often health issues. A lot of my clients have wives who are very, very ill, and you might go, oh, well, that's even less reason to cheat. But shit, you don't know. Until your partner is, and I'm going to go very, very dark here, but until your partner is terminally ill, in hospital, you can't ask him for sex. You can't. Oh, no. You suffer with a lot of strain and depression yourself and emotional turbulence because of losing someone that you absolutely love, and all you want is to hold someone for an hour or two and forget that shit. You just don't know. You can sit there all you like and go, oh, well, they're dying. That's right. You just don't know.
Yeah.
There are people with really severe mental illnesses that mean that they can't have sex, or that they're not in a position to even think about sex right now. They're just trying to get their brain straight, get out of bed every day. And the last thing they need is somebody poking them with their dick in the middle of the night saying, come on, babe.
Yeah.
There are so many situations why someone would cheat, and not making excuses for it, but it's just not so simple. So why do people cheat? A million reasons, and it's not so simple. It's not just,
and none of them are straightforward.
They're not straightforward. Yeah. It's not just there's a hot bitch, I want to fuck her. It's not just that woman is there and I want it. There are so many psychological things that drive people to not be honest with their partners, because a lot of it's because they don't want to hurt them, and it's a warped way of not wanting to hurt someone, but that's where it comes from psychologically. And why do people cheat with sex workers? Because they feel it's often less complicated. I think that's a really great point. Yeah. We should wrap this up, but just they so often are trying not to hurt their partners. Yeah. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but they will say like, oh, you know, if I left her, she wouldn't cope. And I go, what do you think she's gonna? How do you think she'll feel if she walked in this door right now, babe? Like, and they know that. They're not idiots. They know that, but they really are trying to do what they think is, the best. And sure, I think we can all easily agree it's probably not the best, but that's all any of us
what
are
is
trying
the
to
best?
do.
Well, and I don't think monogamy has the answer for what the best is. That's my problem.
Maybe.
If everything's working fine, cool, no worries. It's all good.
I think there is a lot of room for monogamy. I think it's just monogamy with a really open approach to communication. So it doesn't have to be an open sexually or but just being able to say to each other, this is where I'm at, and I recognise that you're not in a position to facilitate this right now. I'm feeling a need to be touched, and I want us to discuss how we can make this. If that
but then doesn't that then verge into not being monogamy?
I suppose maybe it does.
Like, where does that conversation go?
You're right.
If not, like...
But I suppose I'd call it monogamy with...
Well, it's ethical non-monogamy. That's what it is. Yeah. That's an open relationship.
Monogamy with terms and conditions.
But that's what that's what the majority of open relationships are.
I suppose it is.
That's exactly what they are.
Yeah. On that note... There's our thoughts. So
cancel us.
What you will.
Do you miss the free and affordable ads and social networks without all of the anti-sex rhetoric?
Assembly 4 is a team of sex workers and technologists from Melbourne, Australia, aiming to bring back free and fair advertising and social spaces to the sex working community.
Stepping away from the clunky design of traditional platforms, their two products, Tryst.link and Switter.at, are refreshing and well-needed changes in both presentation and mission.
And both are free to join and open to all.
You can find both of our profiles on Tryst, and I love how it is so clearly designed by sex workers.
Yep, and I love how straightforward and easy it is to use and how much they clearly support the sex working community.
And also how responsive they are when it comes to feedback and customer service.
Check out their website assembly4.com for the word, not the number, for more info.
Our misconception this week leads directly on from the main segment. Check us out, being thematic, go team. And it is that overwhelmingly my clients are mostly all men who are cheating on their wives.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I feel like I hear that a lot. Like a lot of people I speak to just assume that all my clients are married men who are cheating.
Yeah. Yeah, I do think that that's the assumption that people make. I would say that most of my clients are cheating, that they are married and that they are cheating on their partners.
Yeah, that's not the case for me. And I do think an element of it could be where I live and work. And if I think about it, I would say more of the clients that I have who are married and cheating, I see when I'm on tour, when I'm staying in cities. Where I live, most of my clients travel at least an hour to see me. So I think it's possible that I'm not seeing people who can only sneak away for a brief period. The people who come to see me usually take the day off work and come, it's a whole experience. So maybe I've got a really skewed perspective because of that. But I would say at least 50% of my clients are single. And that kind of breaks, there's a few, I've put myself a little list here. Out of those who are single, there are the people who have never been in a relationship but who really want to. There's the people who have never been in a relationship and don't want to be, or who have in the past but have decided that relationships aren't for them. They may be aromantic or they may just not be interested in a relationship. And there's the people who have lost a long-term love, either through death or divorce or whatever, and they don't feel ready or equipped to date again and don't know if they ever will feel ready or equipped to date again. And I see a lot of clients who are virgins before they meet me, and then obviously usually after they meet me they're no longer virgins, but they're still obviously kind of at the beginning of their sexual life. And I think actually maybe another component of it is that because I do some media appearances and stuff, I'm quite accessible to people who are sort of newer to the industry and stuff. So I think those are factors. The other thing to consider is that out of those clients who are in relationships, increasingly, and I love this, I'm seeing more and more situations where their partner either knows exactly what they're doing. I've had situations where their partner has helped them select who they're going to see or has helped them with the booking process or whatever, and I'm one of those partners. And I think that's really wonderful. And along that vein, I've also had plenty who have brought their partners with them, and that obviously is very cool, very much my jam. And there's also a lot, and I don't love this as much personally, it's not the way I like to run relationships, but similar to Steve, who we had on last week, where their partner knows that they are seeking intimacy in some form somewhere outside of the relationship, but they don't want to know any details, so they don't know that it is a sex worker or whatever it is that's happening. I know I have quite a few regulars who have rules set up, and again, I don't love the idea of rules in relationships. It's not my style of doing things. But a lot of people do like them, and a lot of people find them, really kind of essential. And there are rules, like I have a client whose wife, is completely fine with him seeing sex workers, but the rules are that he cannot see anybody that lives locally. So he can only see people who come to tour or when he goes away on a business trip or whatever. And for her, that's that boundary of, I don't want it being someone we're going to run into at the shops. Yeah. I don't want it being developing a thing where you can see them every week or, all that sort of stuff. I've met people who the rule is they can only see each worker once so that they can't develop. And, people have rules. And I just want to share that because I don't think people realize how much non-monogamy goes on in very textbook from the outside monogamous looking relationships, because there's actually a fuck ton of it going on. And when I say non-monogamy, I'm talking about ethical non-monogamy that everyone is aware of. And then the last category is people who are in relationships and are cheating. And I'll never deny that they are a chunk of my clientele, but I just think people really don't seem to think that single people see sex workers, and they do. They really, and I think my biggest spenders tend to be single people, which makes sense. The people who book overnights and the people who come and spend a full day with me and stuff generally tend to be single, because that's more difficult to do generally, I think, when you're in a monogamous relationship that you're not supposed to be sleeping with anyone else. Not always, sure, but generally my bigger clients are the single ones. But yeah, that's my experience, and yours is a bit different.
Yeah, my experience is that I feel like a large number of my clients are married. Like you said, I think that may be a geographic element to that. I'm in a position where a lot of clients, particularly on the way home, can pop in and see me and, be a little bit late for work, or do a lunch break to come and see me. And that's usually when my bookings are. Most of my bookings fall between 1 p.m. and about 6 p.m. That's when I do most of my work. So yeah, most of my clients are married and cheating. I don't really have
like your biggest spending client, isn't it?
I'd say my biggest spending clients are probably not, because like you said, they can spend more time with me when they're not married. They can get away with a whole afternoon or a whole day or whatever.
Oh, sorry, I thought you were disagreeing with me when I said that.
No,
That's all. Right.
No. I was just saying, yeah. I was for a second, but then I thought about it and I thought, no, you're right. But probably cumulatively over the whole year, the clients that are married come and see me, say, once a week or once a fortnight, and then that adds up pretty quickly and ends up being, my highest sort of paying clients. I'd say probably, of my top 10 clients, I'd say probably about 7 of them are.
Oh, right. I'm going to have a look. Let me have a look at mine.
I don't know specifically, but
I need to find out right now.
A really rough estimate.
Yeah. Well, let's go have a quick little looky-loo. Okay, of my top 10, so this is the people who spent the most amount of money on me in a year. And yes, these are things that I put in my little spreadsheets. 8 of them are single.
Wow.
1 of them is in a relationship and his partner knows that he seeks intimacy elsewhere, and 1 of them is cheating. So anyway, I just want to make it clear that we also see a lot of single people, and we also see a lot of people who are in relationships, and that doesn't necessarily mean that they are cheating. I just have a quick little awesome shit people say this week. One of my clients who is a listener of the podcast, and actually he gave us a conundrum that we're going to talk about in one of our bonus episodes. But before that, so he was telling me a little story, and this was just after we'd recorded our last awesome shit people say. So he didn't even know this was a segment yet. And he was just telling me the story about how he went into his local bar, and one of the women who works behind the bar, he vaguely kind of knows, he's a bit of a regular, I guess. I'm probably telling the story completely wrong. But anyway, he sort of was comfortable with her, I guess. And there was another staff member there that he didn't know. And he overheard that they were talking about sex workers and they were using the P word. And he said he wouldn't have done it if he didn't already have a comfortability with one of the people. But he said, I think the preferred term is sex worker. And I was like, fuck yeah, go you, love that. And he said, apparently they received it quite well. And they said, okay, is the P word a slur, And he said, yeah, and maybe stop using it. And then one of them said, would ladies of the night be a better term? And he said, marginally. And I just thought that was the perfect response, because if I had to choose between being called the P word by a civilian or being called a lady of the night, I think that lady of the night is marginally better. But I am not a lady, absolutely am not a lady, and I work during the day. Yes. And I do not connect with that at all. And I think it's weird. I don't know what we are of the night. I'm not into it, but it's a little step up. But I think he was marginally, but maybe just stick with sex worker. And that's all. So thanks to you. Love you for speaking up. And I just thought that was an amusing little story. So that's that.
Wow. Well, what was that? Episode 40?
Yeah.
Wow. Does that mean it's the end of the season?
It does mean it's the end of the season, Holly Hart.
Oh, gosh. Gosh, Jenna Love, we made it. 2 seasons.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
thought this was going to be a once a fortnight.
I didn't.
10 seasons, 10 episodes a year, really chill gig. But we're here now.
Yep.
And
Sorry.
oh, it's great. Thanks so much for joining us along for this many episodes, guys. And hopefully there are plenty more.
We're going to take a bit of a break now.
I need a break.
We need it,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
But next season, we have a new, what are they called? It's not a new segment, a new style of episode coming. Should we tell them what it's going to be?
Tell them.
Okay. We will be introducing a new style of episode called Turned On, where we watch representations of sex work in media. Watch or listen or read or whatever, and we tell you what we think about it.
I'm just going to pick it apart.
Yeah. We just talk shit about it, basically.
You guys seem to really enjoy us talking shit. So
It's gotten us this far.
keep going.
Yep. And we will have more guests on, of course. We've got a couple of people in the works, and there'll just be more of us talking. So, yeah. But yeah, we're going to take a bit of a break, and we will see you, hear you. You'll hear us when we come
Sometime
back.
next year. Yeah.
No.
Oh, God.
No.
Oh, dear.
Settle down.
We would love to thank our patrons for supporting us every month. It may only be a little bit, it may be a lot. Whatever you're contributing, we're super grateful for. We hope you enjoy the behind-the-scenes content, all of our shenanigans. Just a reminder, if you haven't subscribed and you want some more entertainment in the break, definitely you can join up and check out all of the...
Definitely you can.
You can check out our antics, and that should keep you occupied for at least a few days.
Yeah.
But we're really grateful. It does help us cover the costs of doing this show, and also just puts a little bit of money in our bank accounts to help us, compensate for the time that's involved. And I don't put that much into it, but Jenna and her husband put a lot of time into it. So yeah, what you're doing is really helpful. Helps us also.
All right, what are their names?
Pay our guests.
What are their names?
And
Who are they?
raise up the voices of sex workers.
Yeah.
So that's really. Oh, I'm going to kiss you.
Okay.
Okay, so
Oh, Mr. Love isn't going to won't know what to do with this episode.
big thanks to our patrons. We would like to thank our amazing new giving somebody, Audrey, our new very generous somebody, Kayla, our even more generous somebodies, Timmy, Andrew, Adam Smith, James E., Lachlan, Sub London, Miss Billy, Nora Knightley, Leslie, Scott Watson, Andrew, our secret admirer,
Wheezy, Ellen, Liam, Fritz Your Tits, Mr. E, Scott C, Simon, Skippy, our footstool, Greenie, Ophelia Parker, Aaron, Cobber, and Nomad. And our extremely generous somebodies are Aaron, Andrew, Pete, Sienna Saint, Brino, Adam Moore, Wombat, and B&J.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you next season.
Please look out for us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Patreon. Our name everywhere is Somebody You Pod, as in podcast. Our Patreon starts at just $3 a month, and you can get all of our episodes ad-free and a day early, plus bonus episodes, behind-the-scenes action, bloopers, and more. Thank you for taking the time to listen to the voices of sex workers. And remember, somebody you love might just be a sex worker.